what if the epicness that we sometimes spend our entire lifetime searching for exists not in spite of the boulders, but thanks to the boulder version of you, that these boulders inspire you to become? Often, when we least expect it, life thrusts us into the role of the reluctant shiro or hero in our own story. How we respond in those moments can be the difference between thriving or just surviving. We believe that our story will be determined by how we dare to answer one burning question: how to choose to live. Join us as we explore the mindset shifts, innovative strategies, and captivating stories from my own life experience and those of my truly epic guests. So let's get this started. So, welcome to today's episode of the How to Choose to Live podcast. And today I have another one of the most precious mentors to me. And I was so emphatic about getting her to come to you. This woman not only is the founder of Live Your Message and creator of the Experience formula, but she literally, her byline is that she gets people so excited about changing their lives that she gets people to stop dreaming and start actually living. Well, for me, it was so game changing, especially in the midst of huge crisis in my life and being surrounded by people who said, you can't, that I thought, this is the woman that I need to bring to anyone who is out there who is toying with an idea of who can I yet become and how can I make this feasible. So please give me a warm welcome out there to Marisa Murgatroyd. Marisa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Super excited to be here because you were one of our, students for many years, and just watching you just step into your message, step into your purpose, and do such incredible things in the world. So I'm super stoked to be here.
Well, I really want to mention that, Marisa, you're responsible for millions of people like me who have launched their dreams, launched their courses, but it really wasn't always that way for you. I mean, you had your own boulder in your life, some things that you really had to overcome, and there were people who were really close to you who said, Marisa, what are you thinking? You don't have a prayer, right?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. So I think that, when I graduated from college, I remember my dad telling me, Marisa, I just wasted $150,000 on your education and you came out without any marketable skills. And I think I graduated from college in 2020, and not 2020, 2000. Definitely not 2020, the year 2000, just give or take 20 years, And it was like right after the dot-com bust. And so finding any kind of job, finding any kind of interview, even for something that I even remotely wanted to do, was really hard. And I'd been
Right.
always super creative and artistic. And so it felt like the world didn't have a use for the kind of skills that I had and the things that I loved to do. And I remember just being on monster.com, applying for job after job, things that I didn't want to do, and still not even getting interviews. And I ended up working for Cirque du Soleil for half a year, and I got disowned by my family. They were like, really? Cirque du Soleil went from the Ivy League to the circus? Is that what I paid you for? But it felt like there at the circus is where I was seen unconditionally for who I was and didn't have to, follow anybody else's path, or ironically, didn't have to perform for the people in my life. So through that experience, I ended up going on to getting my master's degree, and ultimately creating a job as a filmmaker, a career as a filmmaker for many, many years. And what I realized along the way is that I'm really good at making things look good, sound good, and telling a good story. And the artist in me thought that that was not marketable. And I'd been told that that wasn't marketable. But when it came time for me to pivot careers, as much as I loved filmmaking, at the time the average documentary was only seen by 1,000 people and took 3 years to make. And the impatient version of me was like, there's got to be
Yeah.
something more than this. Must be able to make a bigger impact than this. Um, I was like, but who's going to pay me for making things look good and sound good and tell a good story? And it turns out that the skill set that I'd been teased for my entire life, that I've been told was completely impractical, is the basis of all business and marketing. And in a different context, that skill set was $1 million skill set. And I just needed to know where to look and how to transform those skills into really different uses and contexts that really would be massively valuable for people. And since then, I brought in over $47 million in sales of my online courses and programs, teaching people how to position and package and translate who they are and what they do in a way that resonates with other people. And so that version of me who couldn't get a job, who was told that my skills were a waste and that I'd never make a living, really realized that the exact opposite was true. And so often the people closest to us, so often our families, so often our teachers don't see that the crazy dream that we happen to be pursuing, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and on weekends and when we're alone is actually precisely the thing that's going to give us massive value in the world.
So I think one of the things that's really super important about you specifically, aside from this ability to take something that a lot of people would have assumed this is not marketable, much less $1 million level marketable. But one of the things that I think was the biggest lesson that moved me the most forward, that I think isn't talked about a lot, Marisa, are a couple of principles that I think are your superpower. And that is one, to understand how to iterate, and that the best plans, the best successes are the ones where iteration is part of the process. And you have this wonderful concept of loving the flub and really impressing that upon people. And what that did for me and what I think it does for other people out there is it helps people have permission to explore and not feel like, okay, I have to figure everything out. I have to know this is going to be $1 million project before I even press go. And I think that has been a superpower of yours, is to really learn and encourage other people to keep course correcting. And even your metaphors that you use are all about the airplane taking off and meeting people at exactly where they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's not necessarily what I'm known for, but it's certainly, I think, a valuable mindset for approaching how to grow your business, because I think so many people are waiting for crystal clarity on exactly what they do and who they serve. And they spend a lot of time, years, just waiting for the perfect idea to land in perfectly clear, crystallized words and, the angels singing and
Right, right.
but that moment doesn't really happen for the vast majority of people. And so this is sort of my iterate your way to awesome cycle. And it's where you have an idea, you take action on that idea, which brings you clarity, which leads to momentum. So you take more action on new ideas, and just your ideas get better and better and better. And it's an upward spiral from there. And so what most people do is not this. Most people do this. And this is where you have an idea and you proceed to overanalyze that idea, which leads to confusion and ultimately procrastination. So you never really leave the idea phase. And this is where you can sit on a dream for years, decades even. And so many people do, because they just loop and loop and loop and loop around thinking that's going to lead to clarity. But the only thing that leads to clarity is taking action. And action is something that you take before you have the crystal clarity, because it's the action that takes the clarity, because that's what takes ideas out of your head, brings them to the real world where you can get feedback and you can get input. And it's that feedback and it's the input that really changes the game, if that's making sense. So this is what most people stall out on. They're like, oh, no, wait, I can't take action because I'm not perfectly clear yet. I don't have the right words. I'm not sure. It could be this, it could be that. I'm going to have
Yeah.
to just wait around and hope that the clarity is going to come, and then it never comes. And so I think this is the mistake that so many people make.
So let me ask you, Marisa, because I know some of you who are listening to this are sitting there going, yeah, that sounds easy for someone who has such a track record. So how either did you in the early days when you didn't have the track record behind you, you didn't know if it was going to be successful, how did you handle the fear? And I know you've mentioned that it doesn't matter what level you're at, they're new kind of boulders to be faced out there. How do you get past that voice in your head that says, I don't know if we're ready to take action yet?
Honestly, it's not rocket science. Nobody's born with a track record. The only thing that successful people do, that people who maybe don't see the same level of success, is continue to take action over and over and over again, no matter what. So what I've learned is that my comfort place, my comfort zone, is not the place where amazing things happen in my life. And so the decision to continue to take action in the face of fear, to continue to choose vulnerability, to continue to risk or even fail forward is what has put me in this iterate your way to awesome cycle. And I've been looping around in the cycle for 14 years, and I haven't found an end to this. Meaning that I keep taking action, I keep getting out of my comfort zone, I keep trying things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work, but that's not really what matters. What matters is that I keep getting back up and trying again. And so, in terms of how do I overcome the voice, is I honestly just take the next step. And so, and partly it's like not trying to figure out every step ahead of time. There are things that I don't know when I start, and there are things that I can't know until I begin. So, at that point, just saying, well, based on what I know now, what's the next step? What's the
That's
next step after that? Then the next step. And of course, having proven pathways, mentors, investing in myself, doing everything that I can to shorten the journey and the trial and error by finding proven models that work for me. So all of that kind of plays a role. I haven't done everything that I've done on my own, but every single time I have that opportunity to either invest in myself or take a risk or take an action, I simply choose it. And if you make that choice day after day after day, it could be simple. Maybe you're at a restaurant and there's a dish you know that you love, and there's a special on the menu. You're like, this could go one of two ways. It could either be a disaster or I could fall in love with my new favorite dish. So let me give it a try, or anything in between. And just constantly making these choices to explore and to try new things and to just get out of a comfort zone, even if it's some small things at first, becomes a life choice. It's a lifestyle that you make. And I know it might be easier for some people than it is for other people, but we all have the same capacity to take action, and it's a choice. And so this voice in our heads, it's a survival voice that we've had since the dawn of civilization. And 300,000 years of evolutionary biology later, I mean, we're still standing. All right. So,
right. Yeah,
all
for
right.
sure.
And when I started to take action, even against what, like with the voice of fear in my head, and realized I'm still alive. And then I took more action. I'm still alive. Took more action. I'm still alive. In fact, I'm more successful. I'm making a bigger impact. I'm helping more
Yes.
people. So the voice is just that. It's a voice. And I've learned not to believe that voice. Yes, it's trying to keep me safe, but it's also will keep me stuck where I'm comfortable. And that's not where I want to live.
One of the things I love that you are bringing up, Marisa, is this concept of getting familiar with something that started out initially as unfamiliar, taking action steps. And it sounds like what I'm hearing, that the more you got even to the point where it became a habit of moving forward and taking action, course correction, taking action, you were able to then come up with a lot of kind of systems, both with the input. You were smart enough to reach out to mentors yourself. And I think that's one of the great leaps forward that you and your team, and again, this has become a through line of this podcast, is that if you really want to live a life that you can look back upon and say, oh my gosh, this was freaking epic, it's a team sport, right? And Marisa, one of the things that I think you've been so great at doing is creating these systems and the support so that when those of us who have a dream, when we move when we feel that unfamiliarity, that voice, it's almost like you and your team are there to say, this is not unfamiliar to us. This is familiar. So it's almost the remedy to that. And I think that's one of the geniuses that you offer, and perhaps why you've seen this huge number of successes. Yes?
I wouldn't consider that my secret sauce, but I mean, I think that yeah, that's more of like a mindset that I think
Yeah.
is true to everything that people do. But I think the real secret to my successes and the student successes is more based on the science of how do you get people excited about changing their lives.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, like I've been studying how our brains work and how we learn, how we grow, how we evolve using behavioral design and some of these things to really understand how do I motivate my students to take action? How do I keep them taking action through the stuck points? And so I think what we're talking about here is a mindset, and that's a key part of it. But I think there's a lot more to it in terms of engineering. You know, for me, when I'm designing a course, I'm designing a program, I'm advising someone, there's a lot about engineering. You know,
Yes.
experiences that help people develop skills in confidence and gaining a certain level of momentum that ultimately turns into unstoppable momentum. So yes, there's the thing of, you know, try and fail and try and fail and try and fail again. But as a mentor, as a teacher, as a coach, it's also my responsibility to create tools, to create proven pathways, to create frameworks, to use everything that I possibly have at my disposal to stack the odds in someone's favor. So regardless of what's happening internally, they're falling into this structure of
Yeah.
support, this structure of, you know, tools, these proven pathways that I've developed over the course of many years. So yeah, I think the mindset piece does play a role, but I wouldn't say it's the in terms of how I've had a track record of helping other people succeed. I do elevate their mindset, but I think there's also a lot of other kind of tangible things that we give that really
For
create
sure.
that as well.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And I think again, it is those systems, the structure that when people are feeling the nerves and feeling like they're overwhelmed by the how question, you've got the how covered. And that's one of the beautiful things. So, for example, I mean, where I really got started and where I really hit the ground running and gained my confidence, to your point, was with your very first. I've discovered you for your EPM, which I think you do once a year. And so
Yes,
share
stands
with,
for the Experience Product Masterclass. Go.
yeah, share with the people who are watching this or listening to this, because this is so brilliant. The talk about systems and framework that you put together to just make it a success. So that whatever your dream is, you really do. You get out there and you, in just a matter of weeks, you take something from concept to something where you've actually sold. And that tends to be a big pushback is, yeah, it's a great idea, but I'm not sure, how I would make this work. You have such a system laid out. Share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so if you are the kind of person that you know you have a passion or you've got some life experience or there's something that you're good at that you want to teach to other people or you want to make an impact in the world, solve a problem for people. You know, one of the things that I've been focusing on helping people create courses, but not just any courses, but
Right.
really experiential transformational courses because, you know, a lot of people think that education or online courses is simply about sharing knowledge or information. But the honest truth is that if information alone changed our lives, we'd all be living in Googletopia. We would have our perfect relationships and our beautiful fit bodies. We would only eat what's best for us and do all the things that we don't do, right? But
Right.
that hasn't come to pass. We've got 24/7 access to YouTube and Google and ChatGPT. And still many of us have the same problems, if not more problems than we had prior to that access to the information. So
Right.
when you really look at, well, what gets someone to change? You know, the truth is that we oftentimes change in super specific contexts.
Mhm.
where we are solving a very specific problem or we're going for a particular result. And so, one of the things that I teach my students how to do is to create what I call a product mission. And a product mission isn't your mission. It's not what you're setting out to do and the change you're setting out to make in the world, but it's actually the mission that you're inviting your students, clients, and customers on, where you're saying, okay, well, come with me. And in 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks, this is what you're going to do and the result that you're going to
Right.
get. And
Right.
where whatever this is so clear and specific, you could photograph someone crossing the finish line. And it's very powerful because rather than trying to sell your what you do, your products, your services, you're really offering someone a
Right.
particular path to an outcome or a transformation. And that becomes super game changing. So when someone knows what winning looks like, then it's a lot more inspiring to take action, right?
Yes.
Because if I know that I can win the game or I can succeed, then like, yes, sign me up. But most people don't know they can win the game and they don't know to succeed because a lot of times that end zone, that finish line is not really clearly defined. And then
Right.
once you have that finish line, then the question is, what's your path to getting there? That's what I call the bird's eye view. It's the path from mission to mission accomplished. And that path, you want it to be the shortest, easiest, most engaging path possible. And you want to just simplify the process of getting someone to an outcome. So when people know, what it is that they're doing, they know why they're going to do it, they understand the transformation it'll have in the context of their lives. They know how to do it by taking a pathway, and then you reward people every step of the way. You've got something that starts to get people into action. And I know you and I are both fans of gamification and experientification, which is creating experiences where people feel like they're winning, not just at the end when they receive that end result or transformation, but every step along the way and creating this. When I say creating a game, I don't mean literally creating a game, but creating some kind of experience where people feel like, wow, I take a step. I feel rewarded. I feel validated. I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. And there could be some level of celebration or external reinforcement as well. And then that inspires people to have the confidence to take the next step. And when you do this in a way where you're actually ramping people up from small, simple actions and rewards to larger actions and rewards, you actually help someone develop skill and confidence at the same time. And there's actually a lot of studies on flow. The flow channel happens kind of at the intersection of skill and confidence. So if someone has a little bit of skill and a little bit of confidence, we'll just apply it to something little. And
Yes.
when you apply it to something little, they're like, "Ooh, okay, that was okay. I could do that. Now let's ramp up the skill just a little bit more." And
Yes.
then they do the next thing, and it ramps up the confidence and onwards and upwards and onwards and upwards. And that's how you can get kind of ordinary people who start to do extraordinary things. And it's really about creating a structure of transformation. What by allowing people to feel like they're making forward progress each step of the way versus needing to, put in a huge investment of time or energy before they see any type of validation or reward whatsoever, because that's when many people give up. It's why we're addicted to our cell phones. You all of a sudden you get a text message or you click a like button. It's like bing,
Right.
reward, instant
Yeah. Yeah.
gratification all over the place. And so bringing a little more instant gratification even to things that take,
Yes.
a long-term investment of time and energy. So this is the kind of things that I do, and I do it for my students. So I help them get
Right.
excited about building a business and feel more traction and feel more momentum, but also to apply that to whoever that you might be helping if you're building a business as a coach or as a consultant or as a course creator or whatever else it happens to be.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you have as students, I've seen people in our community that have been everything from, into shamanism to relationships, not simply, kind of the nuts and bolts sort of thing that a lot of people get into. And one of the things that I think is particularly wonderful is that you've adapted it so that you meet people where they are. If someone is just starting out, you can help them. If someone is already making six figures, you can help them too. And I think it's that flexibility. And again, it's that mentoring, that teamwork, that support that is So critical and important. So you're about to launch the next, and you only do this once a year, right, Marisa? You only offer EPM basically once a year?
Um, yeah, I do. I take a live cohort through the Experience Product Masterclass once a year, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, again, to give a little bit of push here, if you're listening to this, this was really where I got started. And this is where I went from thinking, well, I don't know, everyone around me says I can't, to being able to really establish proof of concept and say, wait a minute, why not? If not me, then who? Right? And all of those yeah buts were already kind of addressed in the strategy that you put together and the platform that you put together. So I think, really what you do is so special and so wonderful, regardless of what people are doing. So let me finish by asking you a few questions that I ask everybody in my podcast, Marisa. And
Sure.
so the first one, and these go a little bit deep, but the first one really is I want you to imagine that you are a couple of generations forward. And for whatever reason, the people in that and those generations now have zero access to most of the materials that would help them figure out how to choose to live. And so, if you could share with them three principles or three action steps of how to choose to live that would set them up for being able to take their dreams and move them forward, what would those three things be
So for future people,
for future people?
okay. Well, I honestly think the future is changing really rapidly right now.
Yes.
And I can't, imagine 100% what it's going to be like in, say, 40 years.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at 40 years now, we're talking about 2064. But I do imagine that in 2064 that we'll have machines and robots doing a whole lot of the things that we're currently doing, right? So what that means is what becomes important is learning how to be. And I think that beingness is something that we've forgotten over the last generation or two, and it's going to come back, right? So there's a really famous kind of adage in the I think in the Middle East, and I'm not going to get the exact words, but right, but it's something like my father rode a camel. My father, drove a car. I'm flying planes, and my grandchildren will ride a camel again.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a cyclical nature of things. So
Yes.
I do see right now that what we're seeing in more and more is return on being over
Yes.
return on doing. So
Mm.
that's where we're going. And even in terms of doing business today, people are choosing people who are models for
Yes.
the work that they do, not just what they do, but how they're being in the life that they choose to live. So my first suggestion is to look at how can you live an extraordinary, beautiful life? And
Mm.
how can you find that return on being?
Mm.
The next one is my favorite quote of all time that's going to be relevant now and forever. And it's by Zig Ziglar, the famous late great motivational speaker, who said, "You can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want." And I
Mm.
think so many people, especially going out to leave their mark on the world or build a business, have the thing that they want to do. And
Mm.
simply by shifting from what it is that you want to understanding how can you give people what they want, I really believe that's the keys to the kingdom. And the last thing that I imagine is not just about having a beautiful life and the return on being and giving people what they want, is I do believe too that the power of extraordinary experiences, and
Mm.
especially experiences that can create results, and that result could simply be a feeling that you want to attain, are going to become more and more important. So, what are the experiences that you want to have over the course of your life? And what are the experiences that you want to create in the lives of the people around you? Whether it's in the life of your family, your significant other, the people you serve, your team. How can you create extraordinary experiences? Because it's through experience that we learn, that we grow, that we evolve into our full potential.
Ooh, I I love it. I love it. So, surprisingly, it leads right into the next question, which is I believe that we have one goal and one goal only, and that is to be taking our last breath saying, "Oh my gosh, that was freaking epic. I hope I get the chance to do that again." So, from where you stand right now, Marisa, what are a couple of things that you have done in your life that would allow you to be able to say right here, right now, that those were the memorable things that make you be able to say, "Oh my gosh, this has been frickin' epic."
Well, I think one big piece of it is that commitment that we talked about earlier to choosing vulnerability, to choosing things beyond my comfort zone. Because what I found is that that's put me in a place where I'm constantly stretching and growing and evolving. And I think that as humans, it's not what we come in with, it's what we leave with at the end of the day that matters. And for me, that's not a pile of stuff or a bunch of money in the bank. It's the skills that I've developed, the mastery that I've developed, what my capability that I've expanded over the course of my life. But more important than that capability, because a lot of people have capability under wraps in a box, is
Yeah.
how I've chosen to give and deliver that capability in a way that makes a difference in other people's lives, in a way that makes a difference in the world. So those two things. And then on top of that, let's sprinkle in some like fun sauce.
Yes,
And
yes.
let me enjoy receiving the bounty of everything that I've created in my life and in the world and in other people's lives by reinvesting that and having, some experiences that are just amazing. Like just this year, let's see, I've been in New Zealand. I've been visited Hobbitons where all the hobbits live, which they thought I was, a part of the set piece because I'm not even 5 feet tall. And I got to go to Australia and be with my partner, my husband's family. I got to go to Morocco and go on a camel caravan through the deep deserts just north of Algeria. I did an event in Lake Como, Italy, a high ticket experience event in a house with just 8 other entrepreneurs, helped them launch high ticket offers.
Yes.
I went hiking through the British Cotswolds. I delivered an event on a virtual stage to thousands of people in a third of countries around the earth. And I'm now kind of launching and we'll have 68,000 people opt in for the free workshops and trainings that I give over the next month. That's just like, the first 9 months of the year. And then
I love it.
more.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, final question then. This might stretch you a little
Double
bit.
Jeopardy round.
I know. The bonus, woo, and behind the door. So the final Jeopardy question is we all have boulders drop in our lives. And if you knew that that big boulder was going to drop in your life within the next 2 years, is there anything that you would start doing that you haven't been doing? Is there anything you'd stop doing or anything you might do differently?
Not, no. I think that for me, um, I look at every boulder, every challenge as an opportunity to learn and grow. And I do think that life works in ways where it communicates through whispers.
Yes.
And then, of course, gradually louder and louder voices until it gets to a scream. So, one of the commitments that I have is to try to learn my lessons early when the stakes are
Yes,
low,
yes,
so they
yes.
don't come at me in bigger and bigger and bigger ways. However, if there were to be a big boulder that drops in my life, it's about trusting the process and that this is happening for me. It's not happening to me. And that the way that I move through that obstacle and the strength that it gives me, the resilience that it gives me, the capability and resourcefulness it gives me will have a reason and a payoff later, even if I can't see it at the time. So for me, it's not about avoiding the boulders or trying to live my life so they don't happen, because that's just not possible. And a
Right.
lot of times, those are the ways that we learn and grow and evolve as humans more than just getting things right all the time, you know?
That's correct.
So for me, it's like, okay, well, if I can learn the lesson earlier on, while it's an easier lesson, great. But sometimes, we're a little
Yeah.
stubborn.
Yeah,
We
no,
fight back,
absolutely.
you know? We
Yes,
until life
yes,
throws us a bigger lesson that hopefully we're able to work our way through and find our way out. But this is what life is about. This is the
yeah.
stuff that gets to the good stuff.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And ironically, this is kind of something that you've queued up in that I think that one of the secrets per se of getting to a point where amazing things are unfolding is when you start getting familiar, you start training yourself almost set to expect that sometimes, in fact, often the biggest gems of your life arrive disguised as these boulders. The epic arrives disguised as the impossible. And when your initial reaction isn't like, "Oh my gosh, why did this happen?" but "Oh my gosh, where's the clue? Where's the gem?" I think it changes how you show up living, and you're just a classic embodiment of it. So, Marisa, I just before I ask you to share how people can, first of all, become part of this EPM and get out there and stop dreaming and start doing, because it will change your life. And yes, to your point, we're going forward, it's all about being. But I just want to acknowledge you again for just the how far you have come in your life from being someone who was kind of shamed a little bit about wanting to follow your heart, wanting to follow your dream, and by people who, in the storybook and the fairy tales, are the ones who are supposed to be lifting you up and supporting you and saying you can do anything. And yet to discover what it was that your heart was beckoning you to do, and to get out there and to touch lives like my own and the millions of other people that you have touched, small, big, all sorts of, it is so remarkable. And so I just so acknowledge you. I know that all the times haven't been rosy, and to have the tenaciousness and the generosity that you have is just amazing. So I
Thank you.
acknowledge you, my dear. So without any further ado, share with people how they can connect even more deeply with you. I know there's social media, so share that, but also please share a little bit. You have a huge event, a couple of big events coming up, and a special little gift. So you're not golden, you're titanium, my dear.
Why, thank you. So, my company is called Live Your Message, Live Your Message. And so just live your message everywhere, okay? On Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, liveyourmessage.com. And I do have a free gift for everyone on the line. And one of the things that I think is a foundational choice to make as you start to think about, well, what is my business, is really choosing the right tip of the needle, whatever that looks like for you, what the right niche is. And so I put together a report on the 20 most profitable online course and online business niches. And you can get it at liveyourmessage.com/grit, because Merit is all about the Grit Mindset Academy. So liveyourmessage.com/grit. And what that does is that it puts you in my world. And I don't know, when people are going to be watching this, because I know podcasts are kind of forever. But if you go there, there's going to be something there. All right. And it'll get you into my world. And I run a lot of free workshops and gives and things. Maybe there's a challenge going on or something like a workshop series. And I do a lot for free. So, before even considering coming and joining me in one of my programs like Meredith did, try some of the free stuff I put out in the world and just see if you like it, see if it resonates, see if I could be a teacher and mentor to you too. And if you say, yes, I want more, we'll tell you how to get more.
I love it. I love it. Well, Marisa, thank you so much for joining me here. It has been amazing to be able to share you with the other people who are special in my life. So thank you so much for coming. And for those of you who are listening, I know that you know someone who would just love to hear this episode, who maybe has their own dream, their own idea. So please go ahead and share that with them. And also, of course, if you would share your comments with us, like this, subscribe, and go out there, connect with Marisa. She is fantastic. I can't say enough about her. And as important as anything else, just go out there and live your own version of epic. So you're empowered, you're purpose driven, you're innovative, you're collaborative. And thank you, Marisa. Until we see you next time, go out and live your message, my love.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. Bye.
Bye. Marisa is epic, isn't she? And you can see why I really wanted you to have the chance to meet her. So, your bonus tip today is really to step back and give yourself a moment to contemplate your own beingness going forward and to really think about the things that maybe you dreamed about doing, maybe journal about it or even list some of them, and then take a look and really be honest with yourself. Is it the how that has been holding you back, that feeling like I don't know how to do it? And if the answer is yes, I'm really going to encourage you to replace the how with a who. Who can help you? If you are dreaming of doing something, sharing your message, teaching people, sharing your wisdom with people, then definitely look into Marisa and her programs. For me, that gave me the much needed how. How do I take this from concept and go a proven system to kind of expedite my progress? Or if you think that working one-on-one with someone would be of value to help you maybe sort through some things and get that clarity, then I would love to help you. I would encourage you to reach out to me and let's hop onto a strategy call and figure out what that is. But if putting together any variation of a course, an online experience, a gamification, definitely take advantage. As you saw, Marisa offers her EPM, her experience master class, only typically live once a year, and it there she holds your hand. She and her team really help you through it. You get assigned coaches. I mean, and you're going through with a bunch of other people, so you really get a lot of guidance, and all that ickiness from lack of clarity really comes together. So today, your bonus tip is to really make this moment about you and your beingness going forward. And what are those dreams? And how can you set yourself up to go from dreaming to doing? And be sure to check out the links in the show notes. We'll give you the information how you can reach out to Marisa, how you can get those free gifts from Marisa. And then also, of course, if you'd like to connect with me, that will be there, as well as the links of how you can dive in and grab a copy of one of my books. So, what an incredible episode this was. I would encourage you to share this with someone and, of course, subscribe. And, of course, come and join me next time. So, I'm Meridith Alexander, CEO of Grit Mindset Academy, and I so look forward to playing with you a little bit further as we unravel how to choose to live.